Shakur Stevenson is a first-class fighter, and I don't think it's going to make any difference that he give his title up because of weight difference. He just go to the next division and win that title as well.
People wanted this young, talented, brilliant talent, brilliant defensive fighter, brilliant guy at controlling range, Olympic silver medalist, quick hands, technically solid. He finally satisfied the critics, and he mixed offense with the defense.
Terrence, you're here for your little brother this week, in Shakur Stevenson. I've interviewed both of you for years, and you really have kind of built a relationship that a lot of people know about, and some people maybe don't. How good is Shakur Stevenson in your opinion?
He's not good, he's great. You know, Shakur got all the tools and all the abilities to do bigger and better things than me, and that's what I'm hoping for him.
Boxing legends are saying something absolutely wild about Shakur Stevenson. They believe this kid may never lose a fight, ever. And after what just happened at Madison Square Garden, I'm starting to think they might be right. We're talking about a fighter who's combining elite skill with the kind of rare composure that breaks other champions mentally. But here's what nobody's telling you about why the entire boxing world is terrified of this southpaw from Newark.
His ground, and he punched, and he still got the better of it with the sweet science, being defensively responsible, but without having to be less entertaining. He was more entertaining. He satisfied people. He made people, they said, that's what we wanted in Shakur. And they got.
Andre Ward just went public with some serious praise for Shakur Stevenson. And when a legend like Ward speaks, you listen. Ward's calling Stevenson's potential in boxing absolutely massive, because this isn't just another talented fighter coasting on natural ability. This is a student of the game who keeps learning, stays dedicated, and trains with a kind of discipline that separates champions from pretenders. Ward's seen it all, fought the best, and he's telling anyone who will listen that Stevenson has something special. But here's the kicker. Ward also dropped a bombshell that should have every fighter at 140 pounds sweating bullets.
I think he had a lot of stuff he could have did, but he's so talented and gifted, man, you know. You also got to trust what he's seeing in there. You know, we on the outside, you know. But I think he put on a tremendous performance, and obviously, you know, the level he's at, you always look for things he could do better, you know.
What did you see from the outside that he might?
I mean, I'm just saying, like, you know, like I think it was a lot of body work and stuff like that. He could have touched on, but again, he's in there, you know. So he's seeing stuff, he's feeling the punches. We not, so you got to trust what he's seeing.
Teofimo just couldn't get going.
He put on well, he tried to get going. He just wasn't allowed to. So it's just the distance and range that Shakur has just perfected throughout the years, and then making him pay when he does that discourages him to not want to punch anymore. And I think he was out of answers in the first round. Honestly, I think he didn't really have any answers. When Teo starts doing little certain things with his hands and starts playing the clown game, he out of answers. He's down to just one shot. So Shakur just stayed focused, stayed locked in. And, you know, was at 4 divisions now? 26, 30, 35, 40.
Ward said we don't truly know how great Shakur can be yet because he's still developing and hasn't faced all of the elite competition possible. Think about that for a second. This kid is already undefeated, already a world champion, already making elite fighters look ordinary, and Ward is saying we haven't even seen his ceiling yet. That's terrifying for anyone trying to make a name in this division. Because if Stevenson is still improving, still adding new weapons to an already devastating arsenal, then what happens when he reaches his peak? The scary part is, based on what other legends are saying, that peak might make him completely unbeatable.
Not done yet, you know. It's not done yet. He's a great for sure. How great, we gonna see. You know, he got a lot. He can box as long as he wants to box because he don't take punishment, and he's a master boxer. You know what I mean? So, just excited for him, man. Happy for him, man. You know, it's hard for me to see my brothers fight when I'm not fighting. That's harder to me than to actually fight because I can't help it. So I'm just happy it's over, man. I'm happy he got the win and get home to them babies, get that check.
Last one from me. He's in there in the ring with Conor Ben. Do you like that fight for sure?
Absolutely, yeah.
How do you think that one goes?
Conor's always dangerous. He's gonna come forward, but man, it's gonna look a lot like that. And there's no disrespect to Conor Ben. You know, I respect what he does and how he does it, but the skill set, bro, is different. They say them boxers boring, man. Why they?
Terrence Crawford has been watching Stevenson closely, and what he revealed should send shockwaves through the boxing world. Crawford praised Shakur's skill, But then he dropped this nugget that other fighters hesitate to fight him. Let that sink in. We're talking about professional fighters, men who get paid to face danger, and they're reluctant to match up with Stevenson because of how difficult he is stylistically and technically. Crawford knows what it's like to be avoided. He dealt with it for years as everyone ducked him at welterweight. So when he says fighters are hesitant to face Stevenson, he's speaking from experience about what it means to be that good, that dangerous, that avoided.
Why certain fighters didn't want to take the chance to step in the ring with this fighter. He's great. A lot of people started saying, oh, he's a runner, he's this, he's that. Just to detour people from being excited to see him fight because he's not knocking people out and all that crazy stuff. But they would see why people really don't want to get in the ring with him come tomorrow.
I know you've shared the ring with him, sparring plenty of times. What makes Shakur Stevenson great? What makes him different? What makes him, I don't want to say an ilk of yourself, but in the same kind of era, the Bud Crawford era, he's got a Shakur Stevenson era coming through.
Everything. The offense, the defense, the poise, the rhythm, the distance, the timing, the punch placement, the react time. Like, I can go on and on. You know, the toughness, the grit, the grind. Like, he's amazing. You know, and tomorrow he will show it.
How do you think it ends tomorrow night? Do you believe that Shakur Stevenson can stop Teofimo Lopez? Because people aren't really talking about that.
Listen, if T.O. get out of line, you know, he can get hurt. But I see Shakur outboxing him to a decision, a unanimous decision.
Deontay Wilder chimed in with his own assessment, and coming from a former heavyweight champion who's seen every style imaginable, this carries serious weight. Wilder acknowledged that Shakur Stevenson is one of the smartest and most technically gifted boxers in the sport today, noting his ability to control distance, time punches perfectly, and use defense to completely frustrate opponents. But here's what's wild about Wilder's praise. This is a guy who built his entire career on devastating knockout power, and he's marveling at Stevenson's technical brilliance. When a knockout artist respects your boxing IQ that much, you know you're operating on a different level than everyone else in your division.
Guys fighting between 130, 135, and 140. They stack, you know, around that area. So, I mean, as of right now,
skills that pay the bills.
Well, the two guys, well, the biggest puncher, I feel, at the 135 will probably be Gervonta Tank Davis.
Mm-hmm.
But the most skillful fighter at 135 will be hands down Shakur Stevens.
And what is it about him? Because I know he have a lot of good attributes, but do you think he has enough power to sustain?
Well, it's really all about skills. Pernell Whitaker wasn't a huge puncher, but he was, I mean, very exciting, very tough, and he fought everybody. And Shakur is trying to do the same thing. He want to fight the best they got.
Floyd Mayweather has been studying Stevenson, and what he said might be the most telling endorsement yet. Mayweather called Stevenson the most skillful fighter in his division, especially when compared to Gervonta Davis. Now get this. Mayweather called Davis the hardest puncher while naming Stevenson as the more technically gifted boxer in the weight class. Coming from arguably the most defensive-minded fighter in boxing history, that's massive. But here's the part that'll blow your mind. Mayweather once told a younger Stevenson that if anyone could break his records, it might be him. Think about Mayweather's ego, think about his legacy, and then realize he saw something in Stevenson that made him believe this kid could surpass even his accomplishments.
Could Shakur beat him? If he can't hurt him, that would be my question.
Listen, you don't have to hurt him, you just have to outscore him. You know, Shakur takes a good shot, though. You know, he's a specialist. That's why some fights that he doesn't look good in, because he's so superior. And it's boring watching sometimes. But he's a specialist. He knows what he's doing. He's hard to beat.
Mike Tyson just delivered what might be the most powerful endorsement of Stevenson's abilities. And when Iron Mike speaks about boxing technique, the entire sport listens. Tyson called Stevenson a specialist in the sport, someone whose skills and technique make him nearly impossible to beat. even if casual fans don't fully understand his style. But here's where Tyson got real about the criticism Stevenson faces. Tyson said that although Stevenson's fights aren't always exciting to everyone, that's because true boxing is an art. And Stevenson's precision, defense, and ring smarts are exactly what allow him to beat great fighters convincingly. Tyson praised Stevenson's recent performances, saying he looks superb with masterful combinations and head movement, and that his approach exemplifies classic boxing philosophy. Hit and don't get hit.
I think the fight with T.O. is either going to be you delivering a masterclass.
Or a knockout by T.O.
Yeah, or you getting into some type of brawl with T.O. and end up getting knocked out, right? What are fans getting wrong about the matchup?
I think the fans is getting wrong about the matchup is where I'm not sleeping on that I know about T.O. T.O.'s a good boxer.
Mm-hmm.
He's boxer first. So we could say, oh, he's just going to knock you out. Or he's just going to... That's not him. He's boxing first. He's going to want to establish distance and range on the outside and try to beat me up on the outside. So I think that's the main thing. And also the biggest thing that everybody don't realize with me, I can punch. Everybody say, oh, he can't punch, and then boom, crack somebody, and then they laying down, or something may happen to where they hurt or something like that. So I think that's two big things where they don't understand.
Let's talk about what Stevenson has actually accomplished, because his resume is starting to look absolutely ridiculous. This is a 2016 Olympic silver medalist who has remained undefeated as a professional and just climbed to 140 pounds to challenge Teofimo Lopez for world title gold. Stevenson's elite defensive skills, precision punching, southpaw movement, and ring intelligence have made him exceptionally hard to beat, and his ability to control distance and tempo has allowed him to outmaneuver top fighters in multiple divisions. But here's what separates Stevenson from other champions. He openly talks about wanting to cement his legacy not just as another champion, but as one of the best boxers ever, taking on the biggest challenges and proving himself against elite competition. That kind of ambition, combined with his skill set, is what has legends convinced he might be unstoppable.
Shakur is massively underrated in terms of his achievements and his ability. Everyone in boxing knows how good Shakur is. He is pound for pound, top 5 in terms of quality. But look at the achievements of the young man. At 28 years of age, he's already a 3-division world champion. This is to become a 4-division world champion. Quite remarkable. And Teofimo always rises to the occasion. Sometimes you see a little bit of a lackluster performance when he's not motivated, when there isn't kind of any legacy on the line. This is different. This is a sold-out Madison Square Garden between two of the elite fighters of our generation. And the best thing about this fight is we're seeing them in their prime.
Eddie Hearn recently came out with some explosive comments about Stevenson that should change how people view this fighter. Hearn said the slick southpaw is one of the most underrated fighters in boxing today. And according to the promotional powerhouse, fans and critics alike often overlook just how difficult Shakur is to beat because his style isn't built on knockouts, but on elite fundamentals, ring IQ, and defensive mastery. Hearn emphasized that Stevenson's ability to control distance, neutralize dangerous opponents, and dominate rounds makes him a nightmare matchup for anyone, regardless of weight class. But here's the part that should wake people up. Hearn pointed out that winning cleanly and consistently at the highest level requires a special kind of greatness that often goes unappreciated. In Hearn's view, Shakur's resume, discipline, and technical brilliance deserve far more respect than he currently receives from the boxing public.
Beast, man. He looked so smooth, calm, and relaxed, man. That was beautiful. That was the one boxing lesson that you future guys, young guys and amateurs just turning pro, watch that, man. That was beautiful. You heard his father say in the corner, what happened to your fast hands? That didn't work, man.
Just overall, like, just given the styles and in boxing so well, like, was there any way that Teo could have put on a better performance, a better plan, and gotten a better result?
No, I don't think whatever he would have brought to the table would have worked, man. Shakur just got a great boxing mind. That's just it. He's got a great boxing mind, and once he put his mind to it, he's gonna get the job done.
What is it gonna take to beat someone like him?
The Teofimo Lopez fight at Madison Square Garden might have been the performance that changed everything. After Stevenson dominated Lopez with a masterful display, Buddy McGirt reacted with the kind of praise you rarely hear from veteran trainers. McGirt called Stevenson's performance a masterpiece, saying he looked smooth, calm, and beautiful in the ring, and that young boxers should watch it as a textbook lesson in the art of boxing. He highlighted how Stevenson controlled the fight with smart jabbing, movement, and ring IQ, noting there was simply nothing Lopez could do to change the outcome. But here's the part that should terrify every fighter at 140 pounds. When asked what it would take to beat Stevenson, McGirt said frankly, "You probably want to stay away from that kid." That's a trainer essentially saying Stevenson is unbeatable.
Wow. I saw some casuals online saying that it wasn't entertaining. But if you're a boxing purist and you know what you're watching, you know that you're watching greatness. The art of hitting and not getting hit. Let me put this into perspective for you. Teofimo Lopez is a two-weight Ring Magazine champion. He is elite and he's in his prime. Shakur Stevenson went to his weight category and made him look ordinary. He is top 5 pound for pound in the world right now. And he beats anybody and everybody from 135 to 147.
Let's break down exactly what happened in that Lopez fight, because it might have been the most dominant performance we've seen from any champion this year. Stevenson was magnificent against Teofimo Lopez, turning in a 12-round masterclass that controlled every phase of the fight with elite defense, sharp jabs, and precise counters. He made it nearly impossible for Lopez to land clean shots, while Stevenson repeatedly found his mark with surgical precision. All three judges scored the bout 119 to 109, reflecting how thoroughly Stevenson dictated the action and neutralized Lopez's offense. Stevenson himself called it the art of boxing, hit and don't get hit and pick guys apart, showing just how effectively he executed that age-old principle. His footwork, timing, and ring IQ were on full display as he outmanned and outboxed a former champion on the biggest stage.
Shakur Stevenson put the belt to add Teofimo Lopez, right?
Yeah.
12-round sweep. I know they had it 11-1, but shit, if you watched it, 12 clean rounds.
Yeah.
What you think of the performance?
I do. It was excellent. It was. Shakur understands like what 3 minutes is, and you take full advantage of 3 minutes. He take full advantage of the ring, and he exploit whatever it is that you got bad habits at, or wherever you make your mistakes, he gonna exploit that. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to beat that because no matter how hard you train, if you're not able to do what you train to do, it's almost like you left.
The reaction from analysts was absolutely wild, with many calling it one of the most technically perfect performances they'd ever witnessed. Experts reacted with amazement at just how completely Stevenson controlled every aspect of the fight. Stevenson used elite timing, precision jabs, and sharp counters to exploit every mistake Lopez made, keeping him off balance and unable to land clean shots, which analysts described as essentially paralyzing Lopez inside the ring by negating his offense and rhythm. Stevenson's mastery of distance and patience meant Lopez never found a way to pressure him effectively, and even when Stevenson picked up his pace, he didn't need to take extra risks to win comfortably. The performance highlighted that Stevenson's style isn't about brute force, but about exploiting mistakes and making opponents pay for every misstep, a tactic that made Lopez look completely ineffective throughout 12 rounds.
We talked about Teofimo's footwork and his inability to cut the ring off in other fights.
Yeah.
Did you see that play a role in this one?
He don't, to me, he don't really trust his footwork. I think if you think about his career, it's not a lot of fighters. It's been a few fighters like the Santillan fight and stuff like that, where guys, they made him use his footwork.
You mean Sandro Martin?
Sandro Martin, my bad. Yeah. There's only been a few fights, guys, a few fights where guys make Teo use his footwork. When he have an off night with those guys, he might say, yo, it's for this reason, it's for that reason. He'll never say it's because my footwork's not there, right? Because the average fighter, when Teo make a move, they stay there and he get his off. Or if they jump at him, he take a step back, he counter, put him out. So these are things you wouldn't see in a normal fight, him being in there with a normal fighter. Being in there with a Shakur, where Shakur is the judge, he gonna tax you for every little thing you...
But here's where it gets really interesting. The Lopez camp's reaction tells you everything about how dominant Stevenson really was. Teofimo Lopez Sr. blamed much of the result on his son not executing their game plan and publicly expressed frustration with how the fight unfolded. Lopez Sr. said everything was supposed to go according to plan, but his son didn't do what he was told, struggling to adjust and allowing Stevenson to control the bout from start to finish. He implied that mental factors and distractions played a role in Lopez's performance, suggesting his son never really got into the fight after early setbacks. While he congratulated Stevenson on his victory, Lopez Sr. maintained that was not my son in there and hinted that his fighter wasn't mentally where he needed to be to compete effectively. That's the kind of excuse-making you hear when someone gets completely outclassed.
Or he boxes because he does step back, you know.
Teddy Atlas broke down exactly why Stevenson is so dangerous, and his analysis should have every fighter taking notes. Atlas said the outcome depended heavily on mindset and psychological readiness, not just skill, explaining that while Stevenson's technical mastery and defensive brilliance make him extremely difficult to beat, fights aren't won on skill alone. But here's the crucial part. Atlas emphasized that Stevenson's mental approach is what separates him from other champions. His ability to stay calm and exploit mistakes gives him an edge when opponents can't impose their will or stay confident. Atlas highlighted that fighters who underestimate Stevenson's mental discipline often pay for it because Stevenson stays patient, sticks to his game plan, and forces opponents into frustration. That psychological warfare, combined with his technical skills, is why he looked so dominant against Lopez and why legends think he might be unbeatable.
That's a counter. That's boxing. Okay? But not Jermaine Ortiz, not Simon Mellon, then all of a sudden, if you look at the second round, Jermaine Ortiz was boxing. He was boxing my son the first round. In the second round, he gets hit with a body shot and never came back.
So there you have it. Boxing legends from Floyd Mayweather to Mike Tyson are convinced Shakur Stevenson might never lose, and after that masterclass against Lopez, it's hard to argue with them. We're watching a fighter who combines elite technical skills with the kind of mental discipline that breaks other champions, and he's still improving. The scary part, if these legends are right, we might be witnessing the rise of the most dominant champion boxing has seen in years. Here's my question for you, drop it in the comments. Do you think Stevenson is truly unbeatable at 140 pounds, or is there someone out there who can solve the puzzle? Should he face bigger names like Conor Benn next? Or is he already so far ahead that it doesn't matter who steps up? If this breakdown opened your eyes to just how special Stevenson really is, smash that like button, subscribe for more boxing analysis, and hit the notification bell because this division is about to get very interesting. I'll see you in the next one.
You see that fight going?
Which fight?
Teofimo and Shakur.
Listen, to me, you got to start with Teofimo's mindset. I mean, he's a terrifically talented fighter, but he can be hot and cold. And I think the hot and cold isn't really attached to his physical abilities or condition. I think it's mental. I think, is he in a mental good place? Is he mentally in a good place? I think that, I don't know if we know that for sure, but when he's in mentally a good place, he's a hell of a fighter. I think that what's interesting about this is that he might be the first fighter that Shakur has ever faced that can match him athletically. Speed, quickness, and surpass him in power. But match him with hand speed and leg speed. So that makes it very interesting. I'll tell you something that
What makes this even more fascinating is what's happening behind the scenes in the boxing world right now. Promoters are scrambling to figure out how to market fights involving Stevenson because they know he's going to win. But they need to create drama and excitement for casual fans who might not appreciate his technical mastery. Top Rank has a goldmine on their hands, but they're dealing with the same challenge Floyd Mayweather faced early in his career. How do you sell a fighter who makes elite competition look easy? Bob Arum recently admitted in an interview that Stevenson's dominance creates unique promotional challenges because fans want competitive fights, not technical clinics. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming. Arum also revealed that several high-profile fighters have specifically avoided negotiations when Stevenson's name comes up, and some have even included contractual clauses to prevent mandatory fights with him. The numbers don't lie about what's happening in this division. Since Stevenson moved up to 140 pounds, betting odds for his fights have become almost comical. Bookmakers are struggling to create competitive lines because the smart money always floods towards Stevenson, regardless of who he's facing. Professional handicappers who make their living analyzing fights have started treating Stevenson bouts differently, focusing more on round totals and method of victory, rather than trying to find value on his opponents. One Vegas oddsmaker told ESPN that they've never seen a fighter at this stage of his career command such respect from serious bettors. But here's what should terrify the competition. The same oddsmaker revealed that they're already getting inquiries about Stevenson's odds for hypothetical superfights that haven't even been discussed publicly yet. That means the gambling world is already assuming he's going to clear out his current division. Let's talk about the elephant in the room that's making this whole situation even more intense. Gervonta Davis and Devin Haney represent the two biggest potential fights for Stevenson, and both camps are playing a very careful game of chess right now. Davis has the knockout power that could theoretically end any fight with one shot, but his team knows that Stevenson's defensive skills and ring IQ present a nightmare stylistic matchup. Haney, meanwhile, has been vocal about wanting to fight Stevenson, but insiders suggest his promoters are concerned about the timing and whether Haney has the tools to solve Stevenson's puzzle. Here's where it gets really spicy. Multiple sources close to both camps have indicated that neither Davis nor Haney is eager to be the first big name to potentially lose to Stevenson, because whoever loses that fight might never recover their star power. The politics of boxing mean everyone wants to fight him eventually, but nobody wants to fight him next. Ryan Garcia's recent comments about Stevenson reveal just how much respect this kid commands from his peers. Garcia, never one to shy away from bold statements, admitted that Stevenson's style would be extremely difficult for him to deal with, specifically mentioning how Stevenson's southpaw stance, defensive positioning, and counterpunching ability create problems for aggressive fighters like himself. But Garcia also dropped a bombshell that most people missed. He said Stevenson reminds him of a young Floyd Mayweather, but with better natural athletic gifts and a more complete understanding of boxing fundamentals at an earlier age. Coming from a fighter who's faced elite competition and has his own massive following, that's not just praise, it's a warning to everyone else in the division. Garcia essentially admitted that beating Stevenson would require a perfect performance and probably some luck, which is not the kind of confidence you want your potential opponents to have. The international boxing scene is starting to take notice of Stevenson in ways that should have American fans excited about his global potential. British promoter Frank Warren recently called Stevenson the most technically gifted American fighter since Floyd Mayweather, and Warren's been in this game long enough to recognize special talent when he sees it. Warren specifically mentioned that European fighters and British champions are studying Stevenson's tape because they know he represents the gold standard for American boxing right now. But here's what's really interesting about Warren's comments. He suggested that Stevenson could potentially become the first American fighter in years to truly dominate on both sides of the Atlantic, drawing comparisons to the global superstars who transcend regional boxing politics. Warren even hinted that several British fighters have expressed interest in fighting Stevenson, not because they think they can win, but because they want to test themselves against what many consider the best pure boxer in the sport today. The sparring stories coming out of Stevenson's training camps are absolutely wild and paint a picture of a fighter who's even more dominant behind closed doors than he is in actual fights. Multiple sparring partners have gone on record saying that Stevenson makes elite-level fighters look like amateurs in the gym, and several have admitted they learned more in a few rounds with him than they did in months of regular training. One former world champion, speaking anonymously, said sparring with Stevenson was like trying to hit a ghost who hits back with surgical precision. But here's the part that should make everyone pay attention. These same sparring partners report that Stevenson treats every training session like a chess match, constantly adjusting his style, trying new combinations, and experimenting with different defensive angles. That means the version of Stevenson we see in fights might not even be his final form. He's using actual competition to test theories he's already perfected in the gym, which explains why he looks so comfortable and confident against world-class opposition. Veteran trainer Freddie Roach recently shared his analysis of Stevenson's potential, and coming from someone who's trained multiple world champions and Hall of Famers, this carries serious weight. Roach said Stevenson possesses the rarest combination in boxing: elite technical skills paired with championship-level ring intelligence and the mental toughness to execute under pressure. Roach specifically mentioned that most fighters excel in one or two areas, but Stevenson seems to have mastered every fundamental aspect of boxing while still being young enough to continue improving. But here's where Roach's analysis gets really interesting. He compared Stevenson's career trajectory to Sugar Ray Leonard's early years, noting that both fighters combined technical brilliance with an understanding of boxing as both sport and entertainment. Roach predicted that Stevenson will eventually learn to be more aggressive and spectacular without sacrificing his defensive excellence, which could make him completely unstoppable and a mainstream superstar simultaneously. The psychological impact Stevenson is having on the entire 140-pound division cannot be overstated. Sports psychologists who work with professional fighters have noted that Stevenson's presence has changed how other champions and contenders approach their training and career planning. Dr. Michelle Clear, who works with several world-ranked boxers, explained that fighters are specifically adjusting their styles and game plans with Stevenson in mind, even when they're fighting completely different opponents. This phenomenon, known as phantom opponent syndrome, occurs when one fighter becomes so dominant that everyone else in the division starts preparing for them whether they're scheduled to fight or not. But here's the really fascinating part. Dr. Clear noted that this psychological pressure often causes fighters to abandon their natural strengths and try to become something they're not, which actually makes them easier for Stevenson to beat when they eventually do face him. The financial implications of Stevenson's dominance are starting to reshape the entire boxing landscape in ways that most fans don't realize. Industry insiders report that broadcast networks are already factoring Stevenson into their long-term programming strategies, with some executives privately admitting they expect him to anchor major fight cards for the next decade. ESPN and other networks have begun structuring multi-fight deals around the assumption that Stevenson will remain undefeated and continue drawing viewers who appreciate elite boxing skills. But here's where the money gets really interesting. Streaming platforms are now bidding aggressively for Stevenson's fights because they believe his technical brilliance appeals to international audiences who are willing to pay premium prices for high-quality boxing content. One streaming executive, speaking on condition of anonymity, said they view Stevenson as the future of boxing broadcasting because his style translates perfectly across cultural and linguistic barriers. Pure boxing skill needs no translation.